Hello, Namaskar, and a very good afternoon to everyone watching NCRT's live interactive program. I'm Simran Singh, and you have all connected with us through eVidya channel number 7. Besides this, there are so many different mediums through which you can all connect with us. You can even participate in our live conversations by raising your questions and your queries in the comment section of our YouTube channel that goes by the name NCRT Official, and also NCRT PMeVIDYA Class 7. And for this half an hour, I welcome you once again in this particular program of English for all Class 7th learners. And today we are going to discuss a very, I should say, important and interesting chapter, that is 3 questions by Leo Tolstoy. And what are these 3 questions? And if you have any questions in your mind, then feel free to give us a call at this contact number flashing on your screens. It is 8800440559, and also this particular mail ID for all class 7 students is right there on your screens in the form of a ticker. It is dth.class7@ciet.nic.in. So let me also introduce you to our expert for today's program, who is going to provide us more insights into this particular topic. We have with us Dr. Meenakshi. Namaskar, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for having me here.
Very warm welcome to you. Ma'am is serving as Assistant Professor from Department of Education in Languages, NCRT, New Delhi. And I would also like to take the moment to welcome all our learners, and I would like to emphasize the point that your feedback matters a lot. Your questions are really important to us, so keep writing to us and we'll try to answer to the best of our abilities to all your questions and queries in the program itself. So going straight to the topic, 3 questions by Leo Tolstoy.
Right.
So before discussing what are these 3 questions, we have seen that necessarily in languages we talk about authors.
Right.
Authors or poets. Why is that so?
Yeah, see, thanks Simran for the wonderful question, because it's very pertinent nowadays that people feel when they go through a story, think about the author. But when the child is introduced with a story or a poem, they should know the background about the author. Why? Because with which kind of psychology the author has written something, the author has created a piece, that matters a lot, because the author's experiences, observations and day-to-day life experiences make a huge contribution when they are actually writing their pieces. So today also in this story we are going to talk about a little about Leo Tolstoy, who is a very famous Russian writer, and based on his philosophy, how our Indians have also attained their freedom, I will also try to highlight that.
Well, Leo Tolstoy is quite a famous name. It's a renowned name in language. So let's get to know more about the chapter.
Yeah, sure. So before going to the chapter, we'll talk about the author, that is the Leo Tolstoy. As I told you, he's a Russian writer, and for him, in the very beginning of his childhood, he lost his mother at the age of 2, and at the age of 9, he lost his father, and by the age of 10, technically he was an orphan, and he had 4 siblings. So he was following from a very aristocratic, a very elite family, and later he joined the Crimean War. During that period, he realized what kind of atrocities, what kind of pain actually is there in the war, and how the people are suffering due to the war. So he was actually very moved with those thoughts. After he came back from the war, he went to Europe, and there he had been working in different moral capacities, and he realized the pain of the people, the plight of the people, and he somehow got this feeling that non-violence, that this aristocracy, this is actually not something which is meant for the humans. It is not, it should not be there. So he started writing on these lines, and his works like War and Peace, they are very famous. But at later stages he actually got little moved by this work, because he was not satisfied morally on these works. So he started working more on the concept of non-violence. He actually promoted a lot of education of the peasants or the farmers, you can say. And at that time there was a time when actually he gave up all his property and everything for the welfare and the education of the peasants. And whatever he used to earn by farming with the peasants, and he used to give his earnings to the needy one. So he gave actually a lot of consideration to the people who are needy, who are not having the resources. And his philosophy of non-violence was so influencing, and it was so impactful that even Mahatma Gandhi, he got influenced by his philosophy, and he actually built his beliefs from Tolstoy's non-violence principles.
So can we say that the writings of Leo Tolstoy is actually inspired by the real life incidences or the experiences, the first-hand experiences that he has faced?
True. And that is why it is very impactful, because his own experiences, his own life journey is there in his writing, and that's why it's impactful. For a writer, if their expression, their writing is from their own observation, from their own experiences, then they are impactful, they can attract the learner. But if the writer only writes for the purpose of pleasing the learner, the impact will not come.
Of course. And here you have used a term, that is aristocracy.
Yeah.
Would you like to also specify the meaning to our learners?
Yeah, aristocracy means it's a condition in which you have all the privileges, you have more than you need actually. Right, so that is aristocracy. So in most of the people, this kind of a feeling comes when they have what actually is more than what they need.
More than enough?
Yeah, more than enough. So according to Tolstoy, this actually level of aristocracy should be actually lowered. Why? Because people should value what they have. Right? When you have a lot, you can't value everything. You are lost in all the things, right? So somehow through this story also we'll be able to convey this idea, and I really appreciate the writer who has addressed this kind of a notion and the topic which has been chosen for the class 7 students, because they need definitely an understanding of the morals and the ethics that they must have when they are growing up at this crucial age.
Of course, and I'm sure it's going to be a great learning for all of us. So let's begin.
Yeah, sure. So for you all, to make it more interesting, I have tried to create a comic expression, right? Because I know it's very monotonous when we read the passages and the paragraphs, right? So I have tried some, and I have kept a little activity for you also. So I request, when you watch this comic strips, you have to think when you have to create something also, right? So I have kept an activity for you also.
All right.
So first, these are the characters of the story. There's a king, there is a hermit, there is a bodyguard, there is a wounded bearded man, and there are few wise men which we have given there in the bottom, right? So first of all, there was a king basically, and one day he thought that I need to know more about how can I make myself one who cannot be defeated, right? So in that thought, he thought I must be knowing few things based on which I will never be able to fail, I will never be able to defeat it, right? So there were 3 questions in his mind. The first one was, what is the time to begin something? Second, which people should I listen to? And third, what is the most important thing for me to do? So while thinking about all that, he thought that I am a king of a huge state, so I should try to pull out my contacts, and I should try to find out who wise men are around, and I can seek their valuable guidance. So he decided, and he said, I will send messengers throughout the kingdom, and whosoever will answer my 3 questions will be rewarded with large sum of money. So for that quest, when he stated that he will be rewarding the people for this activity where they'll be answering the 3 questions, he has given an reward, kind of a motivation for the wise men to come forward. So few wise men came, and for answering the first question, that was, what is the time to begin something? So for that, for the first wise man who answered was, the king must prepare a timetable and then follow it strictly. Then only the king can do everything at its proper time. The other one says, it is impossible to decide correctly without the help from others. The right time for right action must be needed. The third one says, the king must notice everything happening around. He must avoid foolish pleasures and always do whatever seemed necessary at that time. The other one says, king must have counsel of wise men who will help him act at the proper time, as for one man to decide correctly is impossible. Hence, advice of other man is needed to understand the right time for right action. Lastly, there could be something urgent and hence waiting for the counsel will not be right or advisable. For deciding the right time for doing something, it's necessary to look into the future, and only magicians can do that. Therefore, the king needs to consult magicians. So, these were the kind of answers the king got for the first question. For the second question, which people should I listen to? Some wise men said, the people most necessary to the king were his counselors, so the king must listen to his counselors only. The other one says, no, the priests are the most necessary for the king and he must listen to the priests. The other said, no, not at all. The doctors are necessary, they can treat, they can cure and they can keep the king healthy always, so he must listen to them. Lastly, the wise men said, the soldiers of the king are the more important for the king. They help to protect the king, so he must listen to them. To the third question, what is the most important thing for me to do? For this question of the king, one of the wise men said, science is most important thing for the king to do because it gives answers, it gives logic. So, king must do the needful things in the science. The other one says, for the king, fighting is the most important thing to do. Why? Because after fighting or during the power, the king can protect his empire and the king can protect the nation. The other one says, not at all. Religious worship is the most important thing for the king to do, which will help him to be saved from all the troubles because God will help him. After listening to all these questions, the king was so confused. He was in a hurry to get the answers, but now he is more than confused. He says, none of the answers of these wise men were satisfactory, so no reward will be given to anybody. I think I must seek the advice of some wise hermit. So, he get to know about a wise hermit who was living in the woods, and he also get to know that hermit, he never meets the aristocrat or the rich people, he meets the common people, right. So, for that he has to change he has to disguise himself, and for that purpose he went to the hermit. He left his horse, he left his bodyguard back in before entering the woods, and he barefooted went to the hermit. And when he went to the hermit, he saw the hermit was digging on the ground outside his hut, and he came closer to the hermit and said, I have come to you, wise hermit, for seeking answers for my 3 questions. How can I learn to do the right thing at the right time? Who are the people I need most? And what affairs are the most important? The hermit just looked at the king and he didn't respond anything, and quietly he kept digging the ground. Then the king felt a little discomfort and he looked toward the hermit. The hermit was looking tired. So he said, you are tired. Let me take the spade and work in your place. The hermit says very politely, thanks. After digging for more than 2 hours, the king realized, now I should ask again him the questions. I came to you, sir, for some answers to my questions. If you can give me no answer, please tell me so, and I will return home. The hermit looked at the king again and said very politely, now you rest and let me work. The moment he said that, the king was about to say that he is leaving. Just then, the hermit says, here comes someone running. Now, both king and the hermit were standing, and they saw somebody was coming towards them. So, this is the person who was coming towards them. He is the, as you could have seen in the first slide, he is the wounded bearded person, And this slide I have kept blank. You might be wondering why, because now this is the activity for you, my dear learners. You have to write a few dialogues for this character. You have to make a not beautiful or an appropriate or accurate, but you have to try to make a sketch for this character. I will tell you what will be the events happening in this slide, and you will have to make it, right. So, in this slide what is happening, this bearded man who was coming towards the hermit and the king, what he was in position, he was actually holding his stomach and he was running, and suddenly when he came closer, both hermit and the king realized that some blood was flowing from his stomach, right. And he was melancholy, having some feeble sounds, and he just fall in front of them. So, they both looked at him and they realized that he is profusely bleeding, and they helped this wounded person by removing his cloth, and they saw the cut. They washed the cut with the water, and the king with his handkerchief tried to wrap the wound, and hermit brought his towel and they tried to wrap the wound, but still it was like heavy bleeding, it was not stopping. So, they did this process for more than 2-3 times, and the moment the blood stopped, they properly bandaged the wounded person and took him inside the hut, right. So, this is the scene which you are going to create with the help of your nice sketching skills, right, which I have kept for you as an activity. And also you will be writing dialogues in that small comic sketch which you will be making. In that you will be writing, for example, if the hermit is getting the towel, he is saying, okay, I am getting the towel, I am getting the water. So, you have to write the dialogues, right. It is an activity for you. You will enjoy making the cartoon and you will enjoy writing the dialogue, okay. So, what happens, they took this wounded person to the hut and put he was a little conscious, but he was losing his consciousness because he has lost lot of blood. He was having lot of pain. So, I am telling you, you have to make the expression of the dialogue also in this sense, right. Okay. So, they helped him to lie down on the bed, and slowly within minutes he went to the sleep. Right. So, what happened, the hermit went outside the hut, and the king was so tired at that moment. Why? Because first he walked barefooted from his place to the woods to meet the hermit, which he is not used to because he is a king. He never had that kind of a walk before. Second, he digged the ground for more than 2-3 hours. So, it was again a kind of an activity which he has never done before because he is a king. He had people to do things and chores for him. So, at that moment he was so tired, and lastly he actually helped this wounded man. He cleaned his wound, he picked him up, he helped him to lie down on the bed. So, a lot of physical activity for the king which he is not used to do, right. So, he was very tired. He was so tired that the moment he saw this wounded man has closed his eyes, he also just lied down on the floor where he was just sitting, right. Okay. So,
and
all this you have to write.
Before proceeding ahead, I would like to state something. The answers that different people have provided to the questions of the king, I think these are the answers that generally we'll also say if someone asks us that what is the most important thing to do.
Absolutely.
So, generally we'll come up with an idea that maybe it's the age of digital age, or maybe it's the age of science. So, science is the more important thing.
Absolutely.
And some might say it's the religion or something else, the beliefs that they have in their mind. So, I want to ask this, were their answers right?
See, that we have to explore after this story. We have to explore it.
All right.
So, for that there is a suspense and you have to wait and watch, and that is why you will be very much interested in the story till the end.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, sure. Okay, I can see the curiosity coming out of you.
Of course.
Okay.
Of course.
Okay. So, what happened next? They both actually fell asleep, and suddenly in the morning, the king, he woke up and he was not able to recall what happened the last night, because it was like something happened so quickly and it was all out of his routine, and he was just trying to collect where he was, what he was doing and whatever. So, he just looked towards the bed and he saw that wounded man, and then he Then he recalled, okay, I was here for some answers and then this man came, and everything was a flashback for him, right? And while he was looking at the wounded person, that wounded man looked back at him, and he, in his very pale and feeble voice, he said, "Please forgive me, sir, please forgive me." The king was surprised and sat back with this expression, and he was like, "I don't know you and have nothing to forgive you for. So why you are asking for forgiveness to me?" So the wounded man said, "You don't know me, sir, but I know you. I am that enemy of yours who swore revenge on you because you put my brother to death and seized my property. I knew you had gone alone to see that hermit, and that time I made up my mind to kill you on your way home back. But the day passed and you didn't return. So I left my hiding place and I came upon your bodyguard, who recognized me and wounded me. I escaped from him to save my life, but I would have died if you would have not dressed my wounds. I wished to kill you, and you were the one who saved my life. So, sir, now I will always serve you till I am alive, as I am your most faithful servant, and I will order my sons to do the same thing. Please, sir, please forgive me." The king was very surprised with all this conversation. When he heard the wounded man was about to kill him, he was a little scared. He was a little surprised. Why somebody is going to kill me? I'm the king. I'm the one who is thinking about the welfare of the people of this empire. So why somebody is thinking to kill me? What wrong I could have done? So he was having that kind of a thought in his mind. And equally, when this person said that I am now your servant, I'll be serving you in future and my sons will be serving you, then he was having another kind of a feeling and expression that, okay, that means I have mended some kind of a revenge or some kind of enmity with some person which I didn't know about. So he said, "I forgive you and I will send my servants and doctors to look after you. Also, I promise to return your property." After that, the wounded person, he goes back to sleep, and the king, he comes out of the hut and he tries to look for the hermit first of all, because he just wanted to go out back to his place, and he was just still curious if he'll be able to get answers to his questions or not. So he saw that hermit, he was actually now putting seeds in those beds which the king has digged a day before, right? So at that moment he saw the hermit and he requested again, he told him, "For the last time, sir, I request you to answer my questions. Please, wise man, I request you." The wise man looked at him while he was putting the seeds in the bed, and he just looked at him very calmly and said, "I need not to answer you, as you have already been answered." Now with this answer, this expression, the king was again shocked and surprised, and he was like, "How I have been answered? What do you mean?" So the hermit replied, "Don't you see what happened? If you had not pitied my weakness yesterday and had not dug these beds for me, you would have gone away. Then that man would have attacked you and you would have wished that you would have stayed with me. So this way, at that time, I was the important person for you, and that time was important for you because your life was saved out of it, and what you did for me out of pity or out of humanity, that was the important business, right? And afterward, when the man ran to us, the most important time was when you were caring for him, because if you had not dressed his wounds, he would have died, and without having made peace with you. So what do you think? That man at that moment is an important person for you. The time you spend on that man to save his life was important for that specific cause, and you helped that man, you saved his life. That was the most important business you could have done, or that is the most important thing that you could have done." So the hermit finally tells him, "You must always remember there is only one time that is important, and that time is now. It is the most important time because it is the only time we have any power to act. The most necessary person is the person you are with a particular moment, for no one knows what will happen in the future and whether we will meet anyone else. The most important business is to do that person good, because you were sent into this world for that purpose only. The king was surprised, his eyes were filled with tears and he was feeling so blessed. He said, "It's amazing how you simply answered my questions without saying anything directly to me and making me aware of things and actions happening around."
So, all right. So we have found the right answers to these three questions.
So these were the answers that we were looking for.
All right, and ma'am, I think you have concluded the chapter, and I would like to ask you that, well, this chapter is quite lengthy. It has got so many characters, it has got so many dialogues. So, what is the right, or I should say the ideal way or the pedagogical approach that a teacher can actually follow in a classroom so that each and every child participates in this conversation in whatever is happening around the chapter?
Very, very apt question you asked, Simran. Thanks for the question. This is actually which I wanted to highlight here, the pedagogical approach. Why? Because when we are teaching the language in the classroom and with these budding learners who are actually learning the new language, who are exploring the new language, it is very important to bring them into the action, right? So if we make them be a part of that learning actively by for such kind of a stories that we have just seen, we can actually help them in being the characters of the story, and you can also encourage them to write their own dialogues in their own way. Whatever they feel like, they want to add some words in this conversation, they can. First, they have to understand the essence of the character, and for understanding the essence of the character, it is important to understand the essence of the author who has built those characters, right? So, for example, here Tolstoy's essence was humanity, right? His feeling for humanity, his feeling for the peasants and the farmers, which he has seen struggling with their lives. He had actually felt those things, and in his writings, the morals, the teachings that he is giving to the people who are reading, to the readers, is actually what is influencing. Similarly, the teacher in the classroom can help the child in building those kind of values with the help of their expressions. And in language, although grammar is important, vocabulary is very important, but I feel the expression the child can have while learning a language is very, very crucial. Why? Because a child can express beautifully if they understand the essence. So pedagogically, the teacher should actually work more on expressions. They should work more on the tone, the pronunciation, the act, and encourage the child to be the active participant, to be the creator of characters if there are characters in the story, and encourage the child to go more with the visualization part and not just cram the chapter, learn the answer, right? They should create it.
I believe that's how we can focus and emphasize on the holistic development of a child, covering each and every aspect of their personality. And very appropriately, you have pointed it out that eventually they are going to learn vocabulary and grammar, of course, but when we talk about pronunciation,
absolutely,
because English is not our first language,
right?
So we all lack at pronunciation, at the very way we pronounce each and every word of English.
Right, right.
Thank you so much, Dr. Meenakshi, for connecting with us.
Thank you so much, Simran, for the wonderful company you gave me while we are exploring this story. Thank you for having me.
Thank you to all the learners who have connected with us in this particular live interactive program, where we were discussing a beautiful story. 3 questions by Leo Tolstoy. So I think that we have found the right answers to all the 3 questions, but of course you are open to imagination and exploration, and you can always come up with your own answers, and they might be better than what's written in the text. Thank you so much once again for joining with us in this particular program of English. And before wrapping up this program, there's an important piece of announcement for all of you. तो जैसा कि आप सभी जानते हैं कि लोकतंत्र का महापर्व यानी चुनाव की शुरुआत हो चुकी है और 6 चरणों दिनों तक मतदाताओं ने अपने कीमती वोट दर्ज करवाए हैं। 7वां चरण अब भी शेष है, तो यदि आपके क्षेत्र में भी लोकसभा इलेक्शंस मतदान की प्रक्रिया जो है वो जारी है, तो आप भी अपना कीमती मत ज़रूर दीजिए। देश के प्रति एक जिम्मेदार नागरिक होने का फ़र्ज़ निभाइए। अपने अंग्रेजी के इस सत्र को हमें यहीं पर समाप्त करना होगा, पर आप सब कहीं मत जाइएगा, क्योंकि कुछ ही समय में हम लेकर आएंगे सोशल साइंस का एक प्रोग्राम। तो सामाजिक विज्ञान का हमारा यह कार्यक्रम रहेगा कक्षा 7वीं के सभी विद्यार्थियों के लिए, और हमारा विषय होगा मराठा राज्य। सो वी आर गोइंग टू डिस्कस मराठा किंगडम Part 2. This means that a particular video is there already for all of you on NCRT Official. We will be right back within few minutes, so stay connected and keep watching eVidya channels. Namaskar.